Yeah, the Ghoul, ladies and gentlemen, all of you waited for it, and now it's guaranteed, and it's kicking off the match between Jinx and Nokron here. That's going to be an interesting one on the blood. Okay. I don't think anyone saw that on stream yet, but we just saw the Ghoul sliding around, so Zaka seems very ready based on that animation.
Yeah, that reminded me a lot of those bugs with the healing animation, or where the survivor that is being healed gets stuck in that position of being kneeled down. That's basically what Zaka just went through for the first 3 seconds. And then, well, yeah, it was only standing up. We're getting our first share here of the ability. This killer gets those first hits practically for free every time. It really only gets interesting after. Because no matter where you are, you'll always be able to hit that tentacle and get the deep wound even. And people will not be able to use bait for this, as is banned on this killer. So don't expect anyone to have it. Oh.
And now that's a very dream start for Zaka here. He's not joking around with the Ghoul. First chase, first down coming in as quick as possible. 47 seconds under the minute mark. That also explains why corrupt intervention isn't really needed for Zaka, because it would have just been an empty slot basically. Good attempt here from the survivors in the distance on the generator, 50% already, so they know that they do not get a lot of time when Zaka is at the Ghoul. And they already have to debate who's going to take the first unhook. We kick on the generator in the distance, and off we go on to K. This is explaining us why the Ghoul is one of the strongest killer behavior has released in a long time.
Yeah, noting on strongest, we weren't sure entirely whether to put him in tier 2 or tier 1. At the moment, people were arguing for both. We've decided to put him in tier 2 for now. So we'll really have to see how that develops throughout the tournament. Maybe we'll have to do some adjustments. But yeah, what Zaka's already showing practically is the mobility is incredible on this killer. You are practically all over all the time. And then they're also super powerful in chases, because you can practically always catch up. And we already see Zaka using the ability of the Ghoul to also vault over pallets. You can catch up so much faster than as with Mastermind. It's incredible. And yeah, these chases are going to go by very quickly, and I wouldn't be surprised, especially also that we put him on Blood Lodge, which is a very open and large map where the Ghoul again can sort of just swing around like he's in the jungle on those vines. Yeah, he's just going to be all over, and the survivors may be able to play a tile, but once that's gone, Zaka will be faster catching up to them than they will be connecting to another tile. And we are already seeing that with Mathis here. Second stage, 4 gens left. You might confuse this with Nurse with how quickly the game's progressing.
Yeah, and what you mentioned is important, right? Tier 2 balancing at the moment, so he might even be a little bit more dangerous than the Nurse, especially in the hands of a Zaka. Beautiful defense strategy that we see here, always trying to switch between the generators and back to the hook. In case there's someone moving in, they will immediately find themselves in the chase with the Ghoul, but now Zaka had to wait a little bit until the power is coming back, and that's perfect here for Moon, who came in as the rescuer. Perfect timing by Jinx. Zaka getting ahead of the survivor, forcing them back into the filler pallet between the rocks here. Now it's a patience game, but there we can see the experience from these 1v1 players. They are not dropping the pallet just for free. Zaka will have to work a little bit harder, building up the bloodlust now, and with a wonderful swing, taking Mats back onto the floor here. Any rescuers? The answer is no. So Mats is just going to get right back onto the hook, and that means we are already losing a survivor. Second generator coming out, but a 3v1 this early in the trial will be pretty difficult for Jinx to deal with.
Yeah, that's incredible, and not to mention the next generator is not even at the 50% mark yet. Yeah, this killer is just so and there he goes. So brutally powerful. We're seeing it now, and one thing that I've seen a lot of content creators point out, that he's still very fair, however, because what we saw with Mathis here, once Zaka and Mathis were on that tile, he was forced to basically do what any any M1 killer has to do. So sort of just play off mind games, and he can't really use his ability on tiles that are that small. He can still vault over pallets once the tile is dropped, but as long as the pallet is up, he kind of still has to play that 1v1 mechanic, or that M1 mechanic. Yeah, we're seeing it here again now. Now the pallet is dropped, but Zark also just probably wins the mine game here. Oh no, the vault back over. Moon will be able to prolong it for a bit, as he's winning the second 50 in a row. Now Zarka's trying to use that ability to catch up, but it's still not fast enough, and Moon comfortably makes another loop around. And now it's the, oh, beautiful. Now it's those 50s, what we talked about earlier, right? The 1v1 experience. Oh, beautiful. Oh, you saw how he left around him there, so he couldn't get to the tile.
Wow.
That's the strength of this killer. You have to pre-leave so early, and also because he's using the fresh coffee add-on, the purple one, that increases his movement speed by 2 meters a second for during the leaps. He's just gonna be able to catch people off guard so much quicker, similar to how a Wraith would operate with Windstorm, where it's all about body blocking. And this killer also has that mechanic, which makes him so unique.
I really love how Zarka seems to have his ghoul prepared, you could say. We need to keep in mind it's still a killer that just was the last release, basically. So the practice time is really not the longest compared to some killers like Unknown or Blight that we're having in this tournament here. But Zarka seems like he has played the ghoul since forever, basically. He doesn't give Jinx the needed time that they have to catch for the generators. They do not have a chance to do anything for free here. They're constantly running after the pressure. Right now, Moon is with the responsibility to save Dark, meaning no one can take care of the generators. So if Zarka just keeps grinding like this, if the pressure stays like this, we might be in a win condition where 3 generators will be enough for Team Nokron in the upcoming trial to be the win. But we catch someone here. Moon actually sacrificed Dark, at least 1 hook stage in order to take care of the Shack gen. Zarka just catching that last second here. But Mathis, we can tell from this, Jinx realizes the generators need some priority because it's getting tricky here. Whoa, what was that? Very well played.
Oh, you got that pallet on last second and reversed it. You know, I want to talk about the macro gameplay here because it reminds me a lot of how Nurse used to be played, or was played last year, and that's sort of become the new meta. And this is why this killer is even stronger doing so, because again, his mobility is the best in the game. Yeah, as you can see, just K being caught off guard in an open field, and then there's hardly anything you can do, really. But yeah, what this killer does, you tunnel one guy out, and then you've got your 3v1 enforced. And what then you then proceed by just going around the map, because you're practically everywhere at all times again. You keep everybody injured, and then you just wait for one survivor to be out of position. That's a down. Leave him slug. Go back to the other people, slug him. So if you, realistically speaking, if the killer doesn't commit any major mistakes, be it decision making or mechanical, or he overcommits to a chase and just can't catch the survivor, then it's just stuck in this endless loop here, where you just have one survivor out and then it's already GG because he's all over the map, can down people constantly, and they're not getting any gen progress here. The only thing that's happening is Zarka's getting progress on the bleed out bar, and we don't punish those, so if you bleed out, that counts as a kill. We also saw a nice attempt by Moon there, trying to basically vault back into Zarka. The hitbox is a bit iffy. I didn't really understand when I 1v1'd the killer earlier, or a couple of weeks ago when he came out. But yeah, now we see the weakness of the killer is just like basically these tiles, as long as you're on them, but if Zarka gets rid of them, makes the map a dead zone. He's again just all over, and the survivors can't really reach anything. Yeah, that recovery is just so quick. I'm really grateful they nerfed the umbrella, or changed the umbrella add-on, because it used to make that recovery even faster. Hello, that looked like a blink. But yeah, it used to make your recovery so much faster, but now they've changed it, and people are still using it, interestingly enough.
I'm just absolutely in love with what we see from Zarka here. making a killer that just got released look like you had 5 years to practice. What I'm also in love with on the other side, though, is that Jinx is still standing. I think this is something that just needs to be pointed out, because this had a chance to end in a 4K 2 or 3 times already, I felt like, in the trial, and it is only due to the good coordination of the Survivor team dragging Zaka as far as possible, increasing the distance, making sure he's wasting as much time as possible, that they are still standing here. Unfortunately, now Eruption is kicking in on top Rufid, and we are just on the millimeter blinking. I'm gonna use the term blinking now because it really looks like that.
Yeah.
Onto the last Survivor. That was one hell of a trial here. That was one hell of a signal towards Jinx. And if I would be the Jinx killer, I'm not entirely sure who's going to take the responsibility of the Ghoul, but I would be a little bit scared, because 4K4, that's quite tricky to achieve, because I don't see any room for improvement here, right? We have seen perfect usage of the power, quick downs. So where do you want to improve as Team Jinx? That's the question.
I don't think Zaka's going to be the only killer that will make their opponents count down by 7 from 1,000. There's going to be so many more 4Ks for this killer, and I don't think 4K3 is even going to be the best result. Again, Blood Lodge, you're all over the map, and it's so difficult to get around. Eruption makes this killer so much more powerful because it allows you to abandon your generators, go for chase, commit to chases, and still have generator progress, because the moment that Survivor's down, boom, right? Same with Painres, same with Pop, same with Thanos, which I also still don't understand why people aren't using Thanatophobia in public games. You get everybody injured for free. It's like not bringing Thanos on Legion. I feel like that's a no-brainer, so I'm glad Zarko's using it. And then, as you said at the start of the game, Corrupt. No point of can he like use it again on you without auto-aiming. So the killer, there's little Survivors can do once they're out of reach of tiles, or in the immediate vicinity of tiles. But yeah, we are now back into the next round. Oh, hello, that's the only fight we need. Your diary said Mathis will be playing killer against the likes of the Nokron Survivors. We've got Zaka, Ivan, Shen, and Marcos. I'm pretty sure Marcos is also more recent addition, closer to the start of the tourney. So I'm happy he's made it in, because I was really missing him when I didn't see him signed up at first. I'm glad he's here now. And Shen, our previous Severance survivor, gets our first chase here against NKR Ghoul and goes down very quickly in the corner, but dies in the corner, so it's gonna take a bit until he gets closer to a tile. And also, this time we're seeing that Corrupt Intervention dire. Instead of Pop, I think, Corrupt Intervention now turning into an empty spot. We had 49 seconds. First try was 47 seconds. So Mathis is already 2 seconds behind. He might need to speed up this game here a little bit. But there we can see Jinx is indeed able to step up to Zaka's performance. And they might make this a very, very close trial. Only 2 seconds difference in the first chase here. Ivan going back straight onto the generator here, doesn't want to allow too much of a regression. 50% over here for Marcus at the shack, so Survivors are trying to bring in the wonderful onto Ivan here, pushing him away from the generator. We also see your Thanatophobia now that you asked for, so strategy should be getting as many injuries as possible here in order to really get the slowdown in, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. That is now Shen finding himself potentially in the tunnel out, so let's see if that's going to be the chance. That's now going to be the down right here after the vault into the main building. Very unfortunate for our Survivor team. Yeah, that Thanatophobia, I'm glad they bought the Last Breath chapter with the Nurse DLC beforehand, unlike a certain someone who forgot to buy a DLC for the 1v1 tournament. But yeah, Matt is getting his early pressure. We are at 4 gens remaining, so if he manages to eliminate Shen's, I think his name is actually Sken even, somewhat soon, then we could be looking at a tie here, or even a win now, because Mathis is putting in serious business. We've got Zaka and Marcus roaming the map somewhere. Zaka's still injured, so that would be a quick down if Mathis manages to land a decent slide with his Kagune leap. And we do continue the next chase, and Shaq also just pre-dogs that immediately. Doesn't want to risk it whatsoever. Breaks it quickly and only has the hill in the corner now, so unless we're seeing a cheeky balanced landing, which we do. Scan would have perished in that corner. He is the one that Mads is currently tunneling out, so it would be very dangerous for our Survivor team if he was eliminated. Doesn't get the lead past him, so he will be able to get that pallet. Body block doesn't reach. And the tie is reached. If Mads manages to 4K now, Scan manages to avoid another lunge, wins the 50, and this is exactly what I said earlier. The only way this killer could lose is when he overcommits and he makes false mechanical decisions, and he's losing 50 after 50 after 50. Wow, Scan's holding his team in the game single-handedly, and I think with how long that chase just took, we're looking at that third generator popping very soon. I don't think Mads has enough time here, especially also because he doesn't get pain rest from him. And my question or my prediction will soon be answered. Oh yeah, we're at 90. Doubling too.
Yeah, just for the protocol real quick, we got alerted by Nokron survivors that they are on high ping because we're playing on the Indian servers right now, which is not allowed for Season X. The players that would connect to Indian servers need to exit lag to Frankfurt, but we have allowed the play out here for now because they were close to the win condition, and luckily we do not need to make a restart decision about this trial because Nokron is just taking it successfully. So the first set point is falling onto them here. Very well done. I feel like Jinx really had the chance. You pointed it out, Mathis. There was a good chance to even turn this into a win. It was just very unfortunate. The Survivor team seemed to stay at this famous step ahead. They were using the time very efficiently. In the previous trial, we had some moments where the Survivors were trying to reposition, and that costed a lot of time. Rotating to the next generator away from the killer, moving over here towards this unhook that they were given by Zaka. And this is what Nokron didn't have to do, so they could stay way easier on the generators for much longer time, and this ultimately allowed them now to turn it into a win for themselves. We're going to see if Nokron is going to set a dominant sign here at the beginning of this match, if they are going to take some outs from this trial. That would be really crazy, I feel like, if we are seeing Survivors walking out of the door in the Ghoul set, but right now I would even say that could happen.
Do you think that's ever going to happen, really? I mean, we are still in the 3v1 here, so it's going to be super difficult. Mathis doesn't have everybody injured at the moment, and I don't think he's in his enraged mode. I don't even know the term for that. Unfortunately, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, the TL shouldn't take that long. You know, honestly, I'm starting to believe that a TL might be one of the strongest tiles against this killer because he excels on palace and he excels at long tiles. And a TL is just 2 volts that are very, very short. And we've seen now Scan and... Whoa, nasty hit. Scan and Marcus have been able to waste so much time on this tile. And that might be the answer as to how counter this killer the most efficiently. I find it really funny also that how, you know, I've made these parallels to Nurse already, or these comparisons, and people are kind of playing, how did he hug that so tightly? That was very interesting, super well executed. People are also double backing on that initial Kagune lead because, again, that first one is so unique because you end up sliding once you finish it. And people have started double backing into it, like similar to a Nurse Blink. So I find that super funny how this killer sort of compares to a lot of other killers, but it's still so unique. Unlike Dracula, where people like to draw comparisons directly, that the ability is basically just this other ability, but changed. This killer takes inspiration from many other killers, but makes them super unique. Oh, they actually popped the 4th gen too. Wow, I didn't expect that. Okay, Dai, your prediction might have been right.
My optimistic approach to Team Nokron may not be underestimated. It shouldn't happen, but Zaka also doing a phenomenal job here, in my opinion, going down into the basement, wasting as much time as possible. Matt's even picking him back up towards That is
Wow.
actually the final generator.
I don't
And that
believe
leaves Ivan and Marcos as the final standing survivors. One of them might get into chase now. The other one can then rotate around, saving Zaka, so they constantly have their 2 survivors in the trial. It's all dependent on this chase here. If this one is ending too quickly, then the Ghoul has the chance to move back towards the hook. I think he found Ivan, if I'm not mistaken. No, he just casually went back towards the hook and finds Ivan right there, as we are going to have the unhook. But the chance is realistic, ladies and gentlemen. We may see some outs against the Ghoul, and that wouldn't only be very impressive considering we are playing this killer here. It would also be impressive in terms of setting a sign after set number 1. This was Nokron coming in, picking the Ghoul, delivering the Ghoul, 4k3 against an out. That is just very clear a sign that they want to take the win overall here.
Yeah, that is crazy. We have to take into consideration it was Nokron's pick. So they are expected to come into this set with a bit more momentum. We will be seeing Jinx's pick in the upcoming set, which is also Dracula, which I find a bit interesting. I don't remember if they've ever picked this killer. We both know he was a fan favorite on Family Residence last tournament. He will not be played on that map again, thankfully. Yeah, as with any other killer, we've got our pool of 3, except for Myers and Ghostface. We've only got Treatment Theater, but every other killer has got their map pool from which our teams may pick from. But yeah, I think really interesting Ghoul showcase.
Happy that they didn't take a black card, as they actually cost some money in season 10. So yeah, Mathis is now going to be against Zaka, Ivan, Marcos, and Zynox. Zynox, as we mentioned previously, the captain basically of Team Celestial, that has then merged together with Ivan and Zaka into Nokron here. And Marcos, the player you missed, Mathis, is already taking an injury here.
That makes me sad. But that was a no, kidding. I find that a ridiculously early find here by Mathis. He's already zoning Marcos away from that. That's beautiful. Oh, he body blocked him as well to make sure he definitely doesn't miss, and he just goes for the M1 right after. Similar to, you know, like, I didn't think I'd be making this case for Dracula today, but I guess he's also okay, if Ghoul is the new Wraith, then Dracula is the new Ghoul, because I've never seen anyone body block that persistently, or that committed so much to the body block there, as I've seen just now with Matt. Absolutely making sure that he doesn't miss those fire pillars and gets a safe M1 there. Because I'm gonna hope that Matt wouldn't get spun by Marcos there. But yeah, Wretched Shop, we're seeing that how strong this map can be. Hello, that's interesting. How interesting this map can be, because once you're not on a tile any longer, it's really empty. I also find that hit tank by Zaka, or that decision making, super interesting. He went edge map, doesn't want to play the tile, so I guess the reasoning behind that was, if he planned to do it the way I expected, is that he wants to just drag Mats to the corner as well. So the bad TP would take a bit longer if he wanted to come back for the tunnel, because then he'd be in the corner, obviously. But yeah, we see Marcos unhooked, and Mats is very close to the unhook regardless, because the unhook took a bit longer than Zaka expected there. Gets the stun at least mid-bat. And now, yeah, it's again how empty this map is. It's really difficult once you've exhausted the tile. It's really, wow, really difficult. And I'm starting to understand why Jinx picked this killer, Dyer. You know, I didn't remember if they've ever played this killer, but now Mads is super confident.
Yeah, they have a very good reason here, and it's good to see that it works out. We have seen in the first matchup of today that you sometimes pick up a killer and it absolutely doesn't work out as you are wanting to. Oracle had 2 3-stage games on the killers they have selected, so it's good to see that Mats is feeling a little bit more comfortable with the killer here. Good start for the Dark Lord. We talked about it a little bit. has the mobility to recover a little bit and put some pressure on the survivors. You still need to have a good chunk of mechanical gameplay and good mind games, and this is absolutely what Mathis delivers so far. I would also expect him to stay around the hook here. You have the 3v1 scenario basically at hand, especially if you find Ivan, who is just lurking around for the unhook here. That's
no
going to turn out pretty punishing for Team Nokron. No second person around indeed, so the double save was not planned, meaning Zaka or Zynox now have to rotate from cross map, which is first taking a significant amount of time, and second, it is also going to be only last second and therefore very likely resulting in a trade here. Ivan is going to receive the reset that tells Mathis that in case someone is coming for the unhook, no one is going to be available for the generators, and it seems like Nokron opts to go for the elimination here.
I also need to correct myself real quick. We did see Jinx play Dark Lord in the previous tournament as well. The reason why I didn't remember it is, I should have remembered it actually, is because that was the game when Mads' PC crashed and they would have won that set.
Oh yeah.
But because that happened, they were eliminated. So I'm super glad that Mads stuck to the killer, wasn't demotivated by it, and yeah, a kill on 4 gens on Ratchet Shop. That speaks for itself.
Pretty much, yeah. Four generators still standing and you already have the elimination is not really what you want to see on a big map like this. We talked about the potential. You can drag the killer towards the edges. You can really waste some time, or you can double vault into the shack window and just take an injury here. Zynox, that is a strategy as well, but maybe not the best one if you want to recover from the elimination that you just found. Back to the shack, second try basically. Hopefully this one is going to work out a little bit better. Shack pallet now leaving the trial. That's going to be beneficial for the killer later on. Bad form going to be a little bit too early coming out of it though. Zynox trying to bring us edge map again, wasting as much time as possible, successfully doing so because he is playing a little bit of a cheeky mind game here, and that's just going to be Mathis following up in the wolf form here. Next hook stage coming in, but Zaka and Ivan, they have a difficult task at hand. I feel like Nokron needs to start calculating only with generators.
And they're starting to play this like it's Spirit on Wrecker's Yard really, with Zaka and Zynox now being the 2 players that just keep running edge map and taking hits there, because they understand how large this map is. Now I want to say Dracula has the upper hand when it comes to mobility, because again the bat allows you to go cross map. A phase even with double duration doesn't allow you to do that. So yeah, they want I love that Champions of Light so much. Oh well, the patience there. I really didn't expect Mads would unleash that, because normally you would wait either for the item to disappear or just to actually see the Volt animation start there. But that was a bit overzealous by Mads there, and that caused the chase to take a good 7-8 seconds longer than it should have, because Zaka realistically should have gone down there on that window. But yeah, nice dodge there. Wasn't able to avoid the wolf before that. You see a reset on Ivan and Zynox. And the base and hook too, so it's gonna be pretty difficult to get out of the situation, really. Or it's not so difficult to get out of the situation, but it's going to be difficult to get back into the situation of hammering gens, because I don't think they have any pressure right now. Matt still has got 3 active generator regression perks. Corrupt Intervention obviously gone since Marcus was found so early on. Also need to point out that down happened as fast as the Ghoul downs in the previous game, so that is also not something you would expect with Dracula, because I think, or Toby's probably going to correct me on that very soon, or what I remember at least from the previous tournaments is that most of these early first downs on Dracula occurred at least after the 1 minute mark. So seeing a 45 seconds here on par with Ghoul, it's pretty impressive. But again, yeah, Marcus was found very early on in a very open field, and now Mads is doing one of my favorite strategies in this game, is where you basically just hold these, I want to say, are you standing in the middle of a sector where, or a section of the map where you can look down from your position all the way to, oh, that was a beautiful firecracker by Ivan there, where you can look all the way down to edge map, so there's no spot that any survivor can really sneak past, and you have a clear line of sight on all the way down to edge map. And he was just doing that on Shaq, where he would be able to lock down basically this area of all 3 generators that he wants to play for the end game, and that basement hook. So realistically, no one can get past without Matt seeing him. But here we see Matt's overcommitting to Ivan here, trying to find, or at least get a hit on him. And that gave our survivors a window of opportunity. And Zaka will be rescued from the basement. Also, yeah, the average was slightly above 1 minute, as Tobias just confirmed. And we see Zaka going down immediately after being rescued. Doesn't make it anywhere, doesn't have the distance or the time to reach any of these windows. And Matt's now opts to hook him very central in the map.
That's the exchange here. Elimination coming in for generator number 4. Very important what you pointed out there. We cannot emphasize on this enough, right? Do not underestimate the early game. A lot of people are wasting time in the early game. Not our comp players, but a lot of people out there.
Yeah, it's me.
You really underestimate the first 2 minutes of the game when you have a quick down against you, when you are not setting up on the correct generators at the beginning. You are going to have a disadvantage for the rest of the trial. And if the killer is not giving you the chance to recover from that, like Mathis is doing here, we can see that it can actually lead all the way towards a 4K. Ivan has the responsibility now. Zynox is on a generator in the distance, at least was. Now he's jumping back on it. If Ivan is running out of his mind, we might see the final generator coming out, but we would need to have a run for more than 50 seconds, and that is pretty difficult against the Dark Lord. So Zynox is now pulling away from the generator as well, and that's going to be the bat form, and Zynox is just going to accept his fate here. Last chance. There was no heal coming through as well, and the Hellfire finishing it off. So Jinx definitely responding to the Ghoul set, if you are asking me. As dominant as Nokron was taking it overall, as dominant as Jinx in this killer trial here. It's beautiful to see that they are stepping up on their killer that they have chosen here. It's beautiful how they're matching the first downtime with the Ghoul from the previous set. They are so strong, fighting so hard, and I think they have a good reason to feel confident about taking the second set for themselves.
Especially since it is their pick, and it's... Yeah, I know this sounds wrong, but it would be odd if teams actually won their own picks. Because we've seen, I think, the majority, and I'm pretty sure the majority in the previous tournament was that we kept seeing teams take each other's picks. But yeah, right now we've got Jinx with quite a considerable amount of momentum going into the set number 2, their pick. I also want to emphasize again on that funny chase that Ivan had with Mads near the end of the game there. Ivan was just running around, never vaulting. And he was expecting Mads at some point to, okay, he's gonna vault now, and then I doubled back, but neither ever did. So it really looked like they were just running in a circle, no mind were mind games there, yeah, but nothing was effective really, and they were just sort of running around like it's just a rock with no pallet. And I thought it was really
and then it's Zaka with his experience and with thousands of hours on the DBD battlefield, coming out instantly with the wolf form here, trying to scout and sniff the first survivor. Jinx obviously knows how quick that went in the previous trial, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're even playing a little bit more careful or a little bit more hiding, but just as fast as in the previous trial. Moon is taking the injury here, Mathis. The potential is there.
That was so clean. He'll get a second pallet stun at least, but that looked so clean, didn't it? That insta-TP into the wolf into the immediate hit, and I don't think he makes it anywhere. Crouches for some reason. But yeah, I feel like if he had dodged to the left, there may have been a slight chance, but the hitbox of the wolf is quite large. And again, that's a very early basement hook. The exact same thing not the exact same thing we saw in the previous game, but earlier in the other set. Because we also saw Zaka get that early down. And then out of everybody, it is also Moon, the person that was sniped by Jason's Hillbilly in the last tournament across map at the start of the game. Sorry to pour salt into the wound, but it's a funny fact to point out. That is a lot of pressure very early on, and that pop goes the Weasel, plus that eruption on that generator now. The insta-save, however, that's very admirable, because that was practically perfect timing into the 4 other people. And they're also what's it called? Strategically denying that pain resonance by going down basement. Very smart decision. But yeah, obviously, no. It's a curse and a blessing at the same time, and Moon will return to his original palette that he was on at the start, but it thankfully makes it to Tal this time. 44 seconds! 1 second faster by Zaka here even. That means Dracula's better than Ghoul now. Oh, that vote was smart.
Yeah, Dracula is working up his way to S tier here. Hello, Moon. That's going to be a quick injury. Unfortunate for Team Jinx, but the stun is coming out. That was an important one, making sure that we are not having too much pressure on the side of Zaka here. Important will now be as great. Almost. What? That should have almost been a hit there. But important is, as much as Jinx is playing and protecting each other here and running around each other to really take care of one another, they need to remember that they're generators to repair. Sometimes we're seeing that teams are very good in the team play, very good in the protection of one another, and then they forget about the objective. So it's good to see that the second one is already prepared there. Moon taking the down right here, but I still think Jinx is in a lot of control here.
That was also a really smart time to leave that Moon did there, because we saw Zaka commit to that fire pillar that he wanted to basically hit him around the corner, because again the hitboxes are a bit interesting on those abilities, especially when the ping isn't 0, which it never is. But Moon also leaves the Tal the moment he transforms, takes advantage of that microscopically small window where basically Zaka isn't able to move at top speed. So that was really smart, and almost was able to avoid the second dash there, but gets hit through the corner of that rubbish pillar, or the scrap pillar rather. And yeah, they are at least 2 generators in, but Zaka is holding these gens very effectively. At least it's undeniably a better early game than what we saw last time, though.
And we're seeing even some juice being taken here now with the stuns and the double vaults. Very, very well done. They need to keep an eye out for Moon there. It would be sad if we are losing this survivor too early, but same strategy as in the previous trial. Zaka just using the fact that we have a lot of injuries. That is leaving. Dark is the only one who can come around. Hellfire not going to land. So that's going to be actually the trade coming in. Moon is now free to walk away. Dark happily taking the trade here. Zaka will now be busy with the tunnel out, but being busy with the tunnel out means that one survivor can pick up and the other one can freely work on a generator. So still working out for Jinx. Mind game not going to work out for Zaka here. Jinx in the advantage position. Zaka again finding himself in the next mind game. Hellfire again not finding the target. Mathis, Jinx is becoming a little bit too dangerous here.
And I really hope they profit from it as well, because those 2 moments here, they were so clutch. Like, Moon able to... Oh, unlucky. Moon able to avoid the fire pillar that bought them another like 10-15 seconds, and without they wouldn't have been able to reset just now. And Dark getting that unhook, able to avoid the fire pillars, then rush past, get past Zaka's body in game, and it gets the unhook there too. Because again, if he had got the fire pillar, that would have been a 2-tap. So you don't get around that because the recovery is so much faster. But the gens are looking rather grim, and honestly, I don't think they'll even be able to get. They'd be able to get the win here. Best case scenario for the Survivors right now would be the tie, unless again we see a very clutch chase, which I really don't want to count Jinx out from. But right now, I must admit they are playing this better than Nokron did in the previous trial on the Survivor side.
They did, yeah. I just feel like, unfortunately, the pressure on the generators was not as high, and the efficiency was not as high as it would have been needed. They always opened up small windows for themselves with the protection, with the great chases, but unfortunately they were not able to transfer that one by one into the generators. Here, Mats with a huge responsibility. Needs to be a longer chase. That's going to be a very nice circle away from the pallet in order to get out of reach. So Zaka has to come over here, but a little Wolfie is going to shut it down. Eruption coming in the distance, and and now we even see the slug, because Zaka realizes if he ends it right here, Mathis, there would even be the win.
Oh, Dyer, they didn't call out the eruption. I feel like that's messed over quite a lot there, but Mad's chase was impeccable in that corner there. Again, I really like how our survivors of Team Jinx are taking advantage of those transition animations. Whenever Zaka decides to swap forms, they always take that opportunity to skip the tile, and that's exactly also what Mads did there in the corner, trying to get into the corner to waste just a little bit more time. And right now there is, forcing the grab, there is no eruption on that generator. They get the full heal even. I was really going to say that most likely just getting that pickup and then immediately doubling on that generator. But seemingly it is not as far as I was hoping for, and now Zaka also gets that pop goes the weasel on that generator, so a lot of progress, or even all progress here, because that's only 2 pistons pumping, will be nullified here. Of course, those 20% by pop goes is conditional, so it's not just a flat 20%, 20% of the current progress on that generator, but that is still going to be quite a number here. Oh. Look at that hitbox. He stood behind the tree and it still connects somehow. Zaka's also opting to go for the tunnel out here. He wants to enforce a 2v1 even to really hit the nail in the coffin. And it seems to be successful. It's about that fire pillar again. Oh, beautiful dodge by Dark here. Once more, that's 2 times the charm now that they've been able to narrowly avoid it. And Zaka is also forced to leave this chase. I really don't think he wanted to. And yeah, we have Mathis. He's most likely going to stay on this pallet even after getting hit, so he gets his life off and then only maybe, or sometimes Zaka also just doesn't care and just will just swing straight through the tiles, and it takes so many people off guard. I speak from personal experience, is all I'm gonna add to that. But yeah, Mads gets the live, still an unexpected hit here. At least he got the double sprint burst off that injury and the live. Goes down the pallet now, but no survivor anywhere nearby, and also no one working on generators. I feel like Zaka might actually slot this out.
Yeah, this is the problem. We have seen it in the Ghoul set, it made the difference. And unfortunately, it does make the difference here again. They are unfortunately not able to get these, and you don't get a lot of time from a Zaka, right? Zaka is not going ahead and saying, here, take 5 minutes to your hand, distribute it like you want to. You are only getting seconds, and you need to be on point when you're talking about this. Dark now being found, luckily not getting injured yet, so there is the chance for another rescue of Mads. There is the chance to drag 3 survivors back onto the generators here on the side of Jinx, but the chances are more and more fading away here. We basically need a couple of very game-changing chases now against Zaka, and so far he doesn't allow that. So I think Jinx needs to slowly accept that a tie would actually be the best case scenario here.
Oh yeah, I have to. Guess I also have to take back what I said before. Apparently 4K2 and 4K1 is just the average on Dracula now. Maybe I underestimated the map here. It might be more in favor for Dracula than in Survivor. I was just waffling crap earlier. But yeah, Dark is trying to get some more pressure on this, but I feel like, yeah, Zaka is full aware and he's going to interrupt this generator now. Dark walking away from the generator, not giving Zaka any info, and similar to how Spirit operates, you can only see the scratch marks. But that was very smart here, and I feel like he didn't even move far away from that generator, and he's straight back on it. So the generator should be at about 60% now. And it depends on these chases. They cannot give Zaka a reason to get the down and interrupt the gen. They have to make him second guess and go consider leaving the chase in favor for the generator, which is exactly what they do now, to buy a bit more time overall. Of course, the generator will be interrupted, but if the down comes through and he gets to interrupt the generator in time, then that's a 2v1 and a generator that's not progressing anymore. So I'm glad they're at least able to buy a bit more time in that regard. I'm not sure, however, if this generator is going anywhere.
Jinx! The question is, did they jinx it themselves, or is it just Zaka coming out here? There was definitely going to be a very dark time ahead of them with no moon, but the survivors have to say, okay, we're not gonna be mads, but next trial will be a little bit better. This is why I love Jinx as well. You can make wonderful jokes with all of their player names. Dark going down here, being thrown onto the hook. I want to see that 4th generator, Mathis. They deserve it. They are fighting.
Yeah.
They are trying. They are comebacking, if you want to name it like this. I feel like it would be a great revenue or great reward for them if they can take at least a tie here. But
man, I love revenue.
I don't see it happening anymore. I don't see it happening anymore. Zaka is too strong, and you weren't believing.
Yeah, the thing, yeah, maybe I've jinxed it, but the thing is also, it's, again, we might be impressed by the microcosm that the chase is in these games, but it's still, chases hardly matter when you have strategy, when you have your macro game. The 4v1 is just so much more important. It almost sounds like I'm like no. I'm trying to put this in a way where it doesn't come across too political, but it sounds like I'm talking about like communism, where it's like it's for the greater good. The individual doesn't matter as much. Basically, but that's what 4v1 is really. I hope I didn't offend anyone there, but that's what 4v1 is in the end. It doesn't. The chases don't matter. It's all about the positions that you die in, and it's all about. Oh, they get it. Thankfully. It's all about the 4v1. The chases don't matter as much, and that's where we were really impressed by Jinx here. But again, the generator progress watch was superior, or was faster at least, on the other for the other team, for Nokron. So that's in the end where they were stronger. But Jinx, because their chases, it seems like, because their chases have been so impactful, I love that Champions of Light so much. You're so fast, but you leave no scratch marks. That's essentially what they're using it for. And also, it cuts a bit down on the sounds you make too. Oh, he gets the second hit, the dash there actually gets cut. So K will be able to make it, but we see Zaka teleport past and get stuck. No, I was gonna say, but Zaka just teleports past. Mads wants to past K. Sorry, wants to intercept a potential reset here, and we see K hiding in the basement as well. I'm guessing he's hiding for Hatch, but as we both know. No point. He does have Iron Will, so that is going to help a tremendous deal, hiding. But again, even if he gets Hatch here now, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, I'm very happy for Jinx that they got the tie here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this again in case you just came onto the stream. Season 10 is played as a best of 4. Yeah, you heard correctly. No 3-5 anymore. Best of 4. Meaning, classic win would be 3-0 or 3-1. The winner team gets 3 points in the standing. Tie with a 2-2 would be 1 point in the standings according to the football rules. This also means tie sets are no longer replayed. We are taking the tie as it is here.
Yep.
If it happens, but we're just taking the tie, and then we're going to see in the next 2 matches, is it going to be a 1-1 and a tie in set number 4? Then we're going to have a 1-1 overall. Is it turning into a 2-1? Everything is possible now. This also makes it a greater season, because now we are not having entire win-loss scenarios anymore based on one hook stage, but we actually reflect if 2 teams are playing with the same skill against each other and manage to tie. So this is going to go into the books very likely as a tie, meaning we stay as a 1-0 for Nokron, moving into the next
Hell
set.
yeah.
And that is our producer being jinxed by, yeah.
Isn't that everybody? Dedicated server.
Not always. Sometimes it is just we can only hope now that the teams, they haven't screamed yet. The referees are not screaming yet, so I think the teams are fine.
I mean, I think I can explain it. It's because both of these teams were so dedicated for the servers that we just couldn't quite catch up. I guess we weren't dedicated enough to always be cancelled, so it wasn't exhaustion related. But yeah, that's been fixed by now. So yeah, if you haven't got any of those conditional exhaustion perks, then you kind of just boned in the corner if you haven't got sprint burst because sprint burst is banned. But yeah, it's going to be a lot about against suffocation, but the classic bottleneck map, I'm sure you would agree, it's either 3 gen, 4 gen, 5 gen on one side or the other, and then you kind of just try to hold it down, right?
I'm just so in love with the fact that we have the Plague here, my favorite killer in comp DVD. I know I will get a lot of hate for that, but it's just such an interesting set, especially on the suffocation pit. You always, you always have this difficult approach to the 3 and 4 gen. You have this information tool that the Plague basically has built in with the puking. It does take surprisingly long though for Zaka here to get the first infection regarding finding a survivor or infecting the generators they really need to take here. So that is definitely an advantage for Jinx that we have 0 infections so far.
That's also where a lot of teams disagree with each other, is the initial approach to the killer, whether you should just take the infection at the start and just get done hammering gens, or if you just actually just hide out corrupt. Plague is the only killer where that is still done to this day. It used to be meta in comp until, I think, after best of the best, when people said, you know what guys, maybe this is a bit of a waste of time, let's just do gens actually, and comp has healed. But yeah, that's where still a lot of people would disagree, and so far it seems like they are trying to keep 2 people uninfected with Moon and Dark. Kay was forced to because of that chase at the start, and Mads is the one person that sort of just said, okay, I'm done waiting, I'll get on these generators. But it was probably coordinated that they want to keep half healthy and half infected. I can imagine how that would also affect late game. If one of these healthy people end up going down first, you would still have another healthy person available for the rescue, because again, obviously, if everybody's injured, you can't really save. And you also want to play around Thanatophobia, so not everybody's gonna take the infection. That was a really nice dodge by Moon. Almost avoided that infection. That would have been impeccable. I've never seen anything like that. But yeah, we see Moon does barely get infected by Zaka with a pallet there, after sidestepping that so nicely. And they're almost popping a general for it even too, with not a single down yet.
And I love to see that Jinx is being a little bit more cautious about the generators this trial. They are realizing that they really need to make sure that we are instantly going for the objectives, that they cannot lose too much time here. They have played a good early game so far, not too many infections at the beginning, dodging the power here. It's not going as fast as Zaka would like to, all the way into the famous comp corner. They need to make sure though that they are not only getting their hands on the generator, they need to break the setup that Zaka wants to defend, and that is pretty often here next to the main building on the suffocation pit. First generator is... That really hurts. That really hurts, Mathis.
That was like when Xenos played Spirit in the, I think that was AHL finals? When the general's 99.9 at the end of the, they almost, that's kind of how close we got there. That hurts, and, ouch. Oh, something's happening, Dyer. Something's wrong, I can feel it. And the snowballing that's happening right now. You know, I was talking about how you need to keep one person healthy to go for that rescue. And that was Dark, but this time around he wasn't able to clutch it up, similar to what he did in the Dracula game. And he gets Tana 2-tapped right next to the Zanuck. And he doesn't even get it. So he's got 2 people down right next to each other. Also, in that main building area here. But it's also very much in the open. So Zaka has a lot of potential to control. He also knows where the 3 people are now. So we will have to have Moon somehow... Oh yeah, they're just abandoning him. I was gonna say that's probably the safer call here. If they want to save this at all, they would need someone from the other side of the map to sort of circle around edge map and try to get a surprise Zanuck, flank Zaka, to put it in simpler terms. But yeah, Zaka knows where everybody is now, and I don't think they can realistically recover from this, or they will at least have to sacrifice K, and they will have to take the 3-gen, 4-gen. I haven't paid attention that closely to the RNG that Zaka's got. It's at least, yeah, it's a 3-gen. I think they will just have to take it, and they don't get a workaround. Oh, Zaka gets through live there too. Maybe they get the unhook now at least because of that double speed and Zarko's on the other side of the window. Moon pops that second gen finally. But yeah, Mads is going to go down here if he goes for that unhook. And he will run to the other side of the map here. But to what avail? Zaka will most likely still be able to get that down. This is pretty scary for Jinx at the moment.
It is very scary. This Plague trial turned from Jinx having a good control in the first minute of the game with no infections into them basically trying to defend themselves almost like we're playing against a nurse or blind here. Okay.
He's trying so hard.
He is staying on the feet. You cannot move that. Okay, you can actually because Zaka is going around. But this chase, ladies and gentlemen, you don't realize this chase is so deciding for the game's outcome here. We need a recovery for the Survivor team. But now it's going to be the down right here. That was longer than I thought. So Jinx definitely earned a few seconds for themselves. We see it in the distance. They are already back on the generators. They are getting the third generator out of the way before losing an elimination. Things are slowly starting to settle. The chaos is over, hopefully, but Mads needs to have a good run, Mathis. Otherwise, it's still problems.
I'm surprised, or sort of shocked why or how K went down on that tower there, because it is considered the God Rock, and against M1 killers, you're practically untouchable. Yeah, this exact tile, if you're playing this long side, you can hold like a certain position or put your camera in a certain angle where you should never go down, but they're allowing Zaka to get Bloodlust, and Bloodlust is the only way, the only workaround around this pallet. Yeah, we see that now. Mads also takes the down on this tile where they should never go down. So I'm surprised. Usually, what people like calling it on ladder at least, it's like, this is like the true test of ego. When killers don't break that pallet and just commit to trying to mind game it somehow. Because usually you should never go down on that pallet if you're patient and if you know the correct angles to hold or the correct positions to hold. But Zaka was successful twice there. So I'm very surprised that it worked out that well. Of course it could be nerves because it's a tourney and not 1v1s. Especially on ladder when no one watches really. But yeah, it's a damn shame because you would expect, I think out of everybody playing, you would expect especially Jinx to be able to prove themselves on tells like that. So it's a shame, but yeah, nerves, bloodlust combined, it made them second guess their options or yeah, the potential they had on that rock. And now they're both stuck in this corner, Dire, and it's gonna be really difficult, really challenging to get back out of this corner. Because Dark is also going to take this hit here, yeah. Oh! Nah, that touched him, didn't it?
I think so, yeah, but it wasn't enough of a... Okay, now it's very clear that Dark is going to go down here. Moon with the responsibility and dark times, don't jinx it. I was just about to say, for Zaka it should be very clear where Moon is located because the only objective that is now remaining for you is rescuing the team member. Yep. But Zaka wants to keep it safe, wants to hook the survivor and not risk any potential crawl away, and then later you have some pickups and pressure back onto the generators. And I also think Zaka is in a brilliant position to have quite some pressure on the survivors. You have more powers available, very understandable that he instantly picks that up. Moon is cleansing, so you have another power available after this one. You know that you will find the survivors on the generators because the survivors now have to risk something at the gens. If they don't touch the gens immediately, they might not get a second chance to do it in the near future. So if Jinx wants to make a significant difference here, they have to finish it. And once again, we are on this 2 gens remaining, 1 gen remaining mark that we have just seen on the Dark Lord. It seems to be the magical limit for Team Jinx, Mathis. For some reason, they cannot go beyond that.
Yeah, it's their cap. They can't make it fast. But it's, again, pretty sad. I feel like Jinx could have done much better here. I almost want to say, I mean, if it wasn't for Zaka, they should be on par with their opponents here, or the remaining roster of Team Nokron. Ivan and Zaka are just such menaces that it can be very difficult to, it's very difficult to work around that. And yeah, the patience gained by Zaka. He was never going to push that pallet, or Actually, no. You know, that's something I pointed out earlier, is that Zaka sometimes just surprisingly pushes pallets and it catches people off guard. It is so risky when you're in Plague's ability, though. Sometimes pushing it can be really effective, because again, you also get that body blocking aspect of it too. Similar with what we saw with Mads on Dracula, where he had the ability up and then pushed himself past the survivor into the pallet so they wouldn't get to drop it. That's also what you can do with Plague, or any killer, if you just hold W through the tile, and to a certain extent they won't be able to back you back into it anymore. They did have 1 gen quite far, and they do have 1 gen very far from this 3 gen, so I'm hoping they can bring it down to 4K1 if push comes to shove and they still end up being 4K'd. I feel like 1 more gen is very realistic here, minimum for Jinx, and they should get it done. But Zaka is aware that they might be lurking somewhere near this generator. He's refilling his ability too, whilst scouting the map for a hiding player that is taking care of this generator on the shack side of the map. But yeah, Zaka knows how much more difficult it can be leaving 2 survivors on the generator, so he's hastily making his way back to the top side, or to main rather. There's no way.
9.
There's no way!
Oh, God!
The double!
Poor Jinx!
You could have had one guy, like, camp the pallet and go for the stun at least, right? And even if that person had gone down, the other person could have still been on the gen. And they could both...
This is a sad
both
moment.
get commit and they both get slapped. That could have been all gen stunned, by the way. If they had popped that... Nah. I'm at a loss of words.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are taking a short moment of silence for Team Jinx. Okay, that's enough. Final change, ladies and gentlemen, that's it! Zaka, well played.
That was incredible!
4K2. Mathis, 4K2 on a Plague. That is tricky,
Yeah, I would have done
to
better.
say the least. That is very tricky.
Again, it
Not sure
seems
what
like
exactly
teams
it
love getting
was.
4K'd.
Not exactly sure what it was. It felt like a combination of, like, their early game
Hubris.
was actually strong. They had no... Yeah, maybe even. Maybe the early game with 2 minutes of no infection made them feel a little bit too
And
confident.
3.5 minutes till the first person went down.
And I think they
3-1-4.
underestimated a lot how quickly the Plague can snowball. When you have the people infected, when they turn into broken, how quick it can be done. They were kind of swarming around Zaka at the beginning and made it easy also to allow the slug, because Zaka didn't have to travel very far. Unfortunately, it really backfired onto them, this confidence. But yeah, we
Yeah, I
need to
think it's
remember
hubris.
it needs to
Too
be
cocky in late game.
Yeah, and we need to remember Jinx needs to tie or win this one. If Nokron is taking it now, it's going to be the 2-0. That's killer side. New phase, as Mathis pointed out, not regularly seen
I have to
on
correct
killer.
myself. Apparently, he always plays Plague for Jinx.
Okay, then we just don't have him on the radar, or people
Yeah.
banned Plague, and that's why we haven't seen. We definitely don't see him very often on the stage in DBDL. So maybe this wonder weapon here can make a good turn for us.
We'll have to see. He has to have a super impressive early game, and he does have the 4-gen to speak for it. Okay, no, he's... I was gonna say, I thought that pool for a second was the other generator, but no, it is the one in practically the middle of the map. But it's sort of still open to the main building site, so he has this somewhat 4-gen around. Could have been better, so K does not have the RNG on his side completely, but it also could have been much worse. He does only have 2 generators around Shack, so you will most likely play this game around main building. Gonna try to get all of these resources eliminated early on to essentially have this dead zone for this entire half of the map. Yeah, it is sort of a 4. Oh, auto-aimed into the wall there. It is sort of a 4-gen. I don't think so, actually. I think he has the... It's gonna sound like I'm talking about a football roster, but he's got a 3-1-3 formation. And yeah, that RNG, I'm not sure if it's realistic for him to win now, because he would have had to have that 4-gen if he wants to get a realistic 4K on 2. So it will come down to mechanics more than the macro game.
Yeah, Kay trying the classic way, right? This looks like right now how the Plague should face a survivor team. You are taking some infection at the beginning, but you are staying in control. You are looping the Plague basically, and it's not going to be an easy or free down at the beginning. We can see it here. We are approaching the 2-minute mark for the first chase. We're even beyond that at this point, so this is what Nokron knows as well. They need to stay in charge. They need to stay in control of the suffocation peak, because then it will be possible to just get rid of the 4 generators that we need to see here. That is also the luxury win condition that we see here for Team Nokron. They have everything at their hands to take the win, and if they are not making too much of a risk with the power coming out now and more pulling back, hiding, they should be fine if they are surviving this.
Yeah, they hid out, or don't want to say hid out, the corrupt, but sort of. I really like that Kay didn't overcommit to that chase on Ivan at the start, because he should have realized early on if he had committed fully to that chase on main building, he'd be chasing in the corrupted gens, and then Ivan's teammates could have already gotten through the other generators. And again, they only need to pop 4. So it would have been really worth it, and they don't even need to break a 3-gen, because if they only need to break, if K had one, a 4-gen, because that would be 4 gens, meaning win condition would be met. Yeah, K finally has this ability up and manages to get a really nice hit onto Zaka here. Zaka doesn't get around the corner, and he, yeah, I was gonna say, he's probably not going for the spaceman hook. Would be a waste of time. He does get that eruption through pretty quickly, which I didn't expect at first. I really thought when K kicked that generator on his left at the moment, that he's looking at right now, that eruption kick may have been a waste of time, because again, you don't expect fast downs of Plague. But yeah, he was able to get that down onto Zaka, is able to get that first pain resonance just now, and gets the first round of eruption pops at least as well. We heard Zynox scream earlier, but then must have been already at 99. But yeah, Zynox was just going to make quick use of it. That is 2 gens popped for 1 stage. And yeah, again, dire considering the win con. Youch.
Big ouch indeed. 3-minute 19 in the early game. Slowest Plague down this year in 20 Plague trials. Shout out to Toby, our tournament analyst. 20 Plague trials and 19 Plagues were faster than Jinx. That is unfortunately a sad statistic here.
Yeah. I feel like it adds to the theme that we've got going on between these two teams.
Yeah, and the problem is I don't even feel like Jinx played bad, right? They played good. They were fighting. They were trying. They showed good strategy. I really feel like that, yeah, the time they gain does not end in the generators being repaired.
Now we're back down to these 50s that elsewhere from Team Jinx should be really good at, but again, Zaka is also a ladder novice. So he didn't play in the last tournament, but he has played a lot. And he, funny enough, he also, very originally, that was very close, very originally he also comes from what I spoke about before the match even started. He comes from that bubble of Spanish 1v1 community too, originally. So he's been around that for good over half a decade, at least in that 1v1 field. And when he started off as the Eternity Survivor and Blight player way back in the day, before he was on anyone's radar. But yeah, he was already in that community, essentially. They do pop the 3rd gen now, which means tie. So 1 more, and the deal is sealed.
Deal sealed indeed, and it looks like the deal is ready to be signed when we're looking at the progress that Nokron has on the generator here. K is coming around one more time, pushing away the survivor that is currently working on it, which is Marcos, but we have a relatively safe pallet here. So that's going to be one hell of a challenge to just M1 mind game this out of this survivor. We also have to take care of another generator that is already close to completion. We cannot even really pick up the power, I feel like. Even that is too long. I would be afraid with going over towards this pool that gen number 4 is already ready to go.
It is so close, and he still has 3 stacks of pain res remaining as well. If he just needs to get it down. But how realistic is it right now? What K has to do, the position he's stuck in, he has to just go from point A to point B, kick gen, kick gen, kick gen, kick gen. He doesn't have the time to commit to any of these chases. There's like 3 gens that are past the 50% mark, 2 of those are past 80. So, trying to find someone hiding, I don't think they would have left the gens. I think they're still on them. Yeah, I'm surprised why K's leaving this area. Yeah, they were on it the entire time.
They're not scared.
Yeah, as well. I think there's 4 people. They need to only put 1 gen. Yeah, he may have his ability up, but all they need to do is just get on the 2 people on each side. If he comes to them, run corner, take the down, the other side pops. Like, this is a sealed deal to me. This is similar to when Oboy played against Trauma 3 years ago. Yeah, of course I remember that game. But that's the exact strategy that we did. So, that's what they're doing right now as well, and K didn't see it. Gets that down though, and they didn't call eruption. Zynox, Zynox, Zynox.
It is actually crazy when the survivors have put themselves in such a strong position that they don't fear a plague with power. Then you know that something is going fundamentally wrong. I think K realizes that as well. Thank God we have a hook stage now that brings back a little bit of pressure. We were talking about being a little bit too confident though, Mathis, and how it backfired before. We can only pray that Nokron is not going to suffer from this and that they are maybe now getting a little bit too much ahead of themselves, but there it is. Decision taken, 2-0 overall. We won't replay tied sets anymore, meaning set number 4 can also not bring a different decision anymore. It would maximum be a 2-1. So Nokron taking the win here, and now even taking stage out of the door most likely, and I feel like that is very deserved, even though Jinx played very well today.
I feel like it's more a case of the overall score doesn't reflect how close this actually was, but the individual games did. Especially the Dracula game, because that threaded the needle. And Zaka was still able to get through on top, and Mathis wasn't able to get the same result, or not the same, but a better result. That's what I should rather say. Despite it being their pick. So in the end, what we see is Nokron very... Oh, that's Hatch as well. Add insult to injury. Oh my. Oh me, oh my. Zaka gets that as well. But yeah, overall, we actually see Nokron take both of their sets very dominantly. And the one set that Jinx were able to decide that we ended up playing out was a tie. So if that doesn't speak for itself, Nokron overall much more dominant. But Jinx not too far behind.
Yeah, it really just looks like this on paper, right? But the fact that we have a 2-0 after 3 sets also shows us that there was quite some potential for Jinx to meet up the standards of Nokron. There was some good and equal playing today. It was obviously sad that we didn't see this one trial to the very end due to the dedicated server crashing. But I think Jinx can go with some pride and some confidence out of today, because you also had a very difficult opponent in week number 1. Facing Zaka, Ivan, Zynos, Marcos, that is not really the luxury opening match that you can wish for. So taking the loss here, I think, is definitely fine for Jinx. And now you have one difficult opponent less to go against throughout the season. So I think Jinx can see it a little bit positive after today.
Yeah, but Dyer, what easy alternative do we really offer? It's season 10, all these teams are incredible.
Well, yeah, so that's true.
You know, I like saying, I think we all love saying that every time, is that, oh yeah, this season is more and more competitive, but, and we mean it every time as well, is the thing, because these 10 teams have, serious business, and I feel like there's really no clear telling of who will even be in the bottom 3, and Nokron is just one of many others that will be very fierce competition.